This is the Sloan Flushmate Power Assist System. Here's what's inside the box. We have our Flushmate system, a wrench, a bag full of metal parts including a new handle, some screws, another bag full of gaskets, nuts, and washers, and the handy instructions. The tools you're going to need to complete the job. A 1/2-inch wrench would be nice. A Phillips head screwdriver is needed. It's nice to have a large adjustable wrench. You may need that. And then this big black thing is the Flowmaster cartridge tool. You can kind of see it has a large hex, a small hex, and if you flip it over, it even has larger holes than that. So that's needed. And also a surprise item, a hacksaw. That's right, you're going to need a hacksaw because they screwed up on the design and you have to cut off a piece in order to have this thing fit properly. Because when Sloan built this thing, they didn't know what they're doing, but it's a simple thing with a hacksaw. It just takes 30 seconds to repair it. But I'll completely cover that in just a minute. But anyway, here it is. This is the Eljer 141-7000 tank. And here's the Powerflush system. You can see it's a model 150-403 Powerflush system. I guess they call it the PF2. And let me tell you the problems we're having here. Here's an interesting thing. There's water up to the top here. And I noticed that there's some water down in the bottom. I don't know if here, hopefully you can see there's a bit of water, about 1 inch of the water in the bottom. And I hear a leaking noise. So if you look, I hope the camera can get it. You can see there's like a stream of water right there. See how there's a wet spot coming down? And I don't know if you can hear it, but every 2 or 3 seconds you can hear a dripping noise. And anyway, this is what the problem is. It's leaking, and that's what we're going to fix. Let me show you how. Okay, step 1 is we turn off the water at the wall, and then flush the toilet. Now that the water valve is off, it's time to disconnect the inlet. I put a little plastic container down here to catch any little drips. There aren't that many drips. I was able to do this by hand, but you might want to use the channel lock pliers, and then the water drips out, and that's the way it works. Securing the reservoir to the bottom, you can see there's a 1/2-inch bolt, and we're going to use our 1/2-inch wrench. We're going to unscrew this nut on this side and then on the other side. Now that we got the 2 bolts off, the tank just lifts directly off of the bowl. You're going to want to place the reservoir on a nice soft work surface so that the ceramic doesn't get damaged. You know, maybe a towel or a rug or cardboard, something like that. Here's what's underneath here. You can kind of see here's where the filler valve was. This is the studs to where those 2 nuts were that secured it to the bowl assembly. And then we seem to have a rubber gasket here. I guess we'll start by taking out the old unit. What you'd want to do is disconnect the chain handle from the valve. Okay, I took off the pieces securing everything here. You guys, there's this plastic nut, and this wrench fits the plastic nut perfectly. This is came with the kit. And you can see this nut right here. It fits right in this wrench. And those are the 2 you take off. Do not take off these brass studs. They don't need to come off. And this thing just pushed right on. Here's the old unit. It just pulled right out. You can see the discharge hole. And this is the inlet. Here's the new unit. And I just wanted to point out that the inlet is pushed in here. So you have to grab this thing, pull it out of here, and attach the inlet separately. You just open up the plastic bag that had the gaskets in it, and you can kind of see it has new nuts. We don't have to reuse the old ones, although I'm sure they'd work. A new gasket here with one side's flat, one side's ribbed, and then the gasket that goes in the outside of the tank. And of course this gasket goes here. Make sure you have the ribs going down. And now we're ready. And there's already a rubber gasket on the inlet, so we don't have to worry about that. So we're ready to install this thing in the reservoir. Okay, I didn't like the alignment when I didn't have this thing plugged in here, so I'm going to plug this back in here and put it back in because it went in crooked without it being in here. But if there's any force, it'll pull out. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. Let's give it a try. Okay, I have it plugged into that mounting post. And look at the gap. You can kind of see how this thing's going in here crooked. And there's a gap along there. I'm not happy with this. I mean, it would still work. There's like no water that's supposed to be in here. But let me just see around here. I'm going to play around with this and try to get it to where everything fits right. Okay, let me explain to you what's going on here. When Flushmate designed this, they put this post here in just the wrong position. It's off slightly. It should have been over maybe about 1/8 of an inch more to the left. So they didn't design it right to where things don't quite line up right. So they've come up with this new addendum that just says, hey, listen, just unhook this thing and put it in there. But of course, that means this thing hits here, and you have to rotate the tank slightly. And that would still work too. Okay, both methods work. If you just left this thing in here and you put it in, it's off at an angle, that's still going to work. If you follow their new supplemental instructions and have it to where it hits up here, and then the tanks kind of rotate a little, that'll still work too. But I'm going to try fixing this thing. And basically by fixing it, I'm going to cut off the stud here so that it doesn't interfere, and then that way everything will be able to fit correctly. But anyway, they definitely screwed up, and instead of fixing the problem, all they do is they just have some stupid supplement to where they come up with a fix for it. So anyway, I'll continue on. This will only take about 30 seconds. I got a hacksaw. I'm cutting this thing off, and it just slices through this thing like butter. Okay, all done. Zoom in here. Here's a close-up of that little nipple I cut off. Just so, like I say, it just took 1 minute with the hacksaw. Here we go. Now everything is fitting perfect. The tank is in there straight. It was in there crooked before, but now the tank's in there straight. I'll show you in just a minute. These things are all tightened up and they're coming down perfectly straight. And a note, these threads are very fragile. Only finger tight. I mean, you know, I took a little tool and snugged up there, but don't crank them tight. I mean, you're going to strip these threads off very easily. It's very soft plastic, so don't strip them off. I just wanted to show you how the tank is level now. And what it was is, well, the big nut was loose. I put it over top of that part I cut off to where everything rested just right, and then I tightened it up. And cutting off that nipple was the perfect thing. Now everything fits. And I can't believe they didn't notice that when they did their interference check, you know, when they did the mechanical drawings. But Sloan completely screwed up on this one, but it just takes a hacksaw to fix it. Okay, the final step is to put the new gasket and push it on here. Make sure it's pushed in tightly all the way around there and it's fully seated. And now we're ready to put the reservoir onto the bowl assembly. Okay, I just opened up the other package, and in the other package is all the hardware for the flush handle. You can see it's got a stainless steel rod, 4 screws and 2 securing straps, and the actual flush handle assembly and the nut that holds it on. Appears to be, it looks like a left-handed thread there. And there are no instructions showing how to put this on, but it looks pretty easy. I'll put it on and I'll show you. Before we get started, let me show you a close-up of the flush mechanism. You push that down, that flushes. You can see there's 2 bolts right here, 2 bolts right here, and a little valley in between them. And then the corresponding thing set up for, I guess, a right-hand flush. And it looks pretty easy. Okay, I removed the old flush handle. Remember, these are left-handed threads. You turn it the direction you normally tighten to loosen. Remember, left-handed threads. Okay, bolted in the flush handle. You can see the brass rod out there has a little hook. And then, here we go. This, give me a little macro perspective here. See, flushing, flushing, flushing. Pushes down the valve. Hopefully that'll be enough for me. If it's not enough, I may have to bend this rod. But it pushes it, hopefully it's enough. And it's secured down, even though they have, the originally design maybe had 2 screws. They decided to save 20 cents per unit by only using 1 screw. But it seems to work pretty good. There's a bracket here. You can kind of see how it has a little notch. It comes in here. Let's just get a little close up on that. And it comes over here. Get a little close up on that one. So, pretty straightforward, and it seems to be fairly solid. I attached the tank in reverse order, hooked up the water supply, and turned it on. So here we go. I'm going to press the button. Pretty nice. Let's let this thing fill up, and I'll flush it one more time here so you can see the real flush. Well, let's see this bad boy in action here. Yeah, it's fast. Although I do notice it takes a long time to fill up. The older units seem to fill up with water a lot faster.